Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Life Masters. This is going to be an incredible episode because we have Rodney Flowers here. Now, Rodney, I love his story, and he is a motivational speaker, an author, a resilience trainer. You have spoken in front of thousands of people, and you just keep going. But the thing I love most is your life story is absolutely incredible. So, and I know that you believe anybody can change any circumstance in their life with the right mindset. You have your podcast, Game Changer Mentality, which I was on, and it's awesome. So let's start right there. So one of the titles that you're a transformational leader, but you're also a resilience trainer.
Yes.
So what does resilience trainer mean?
Well, trains people on how to be resilient. And
Right.
resilience means bouncing back, right? So we all go through challenges in life, but we don't always bounce back, right? And so I like to train people on how to have the right mindset in order to bounce back. And that's what allows people to be more resilient.
So true. And I know you're a personal coach too.
Absolutely.
And you help people through,
Whatever,
right?
Life.
That's life, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start back to when I want to hear about your story right from the very beginning.
Okay.
So when did this all start from you? When did you realize that you needed to be someone who is going to be helping other people for the rest of your life?
Well, Tanya, I was running down the right side of the field.
Right. Well, in high school, you were on the football team.
Started the third quarter. I was 15 years old, and I made a tackle. Boom! And I went down. The guy that I tackled went down, but he got up. I couldn't get up. So they rushed me to the hospital, did a whole bunch of tests, and at the end of all of those evaluations and tests, they said that I was paralyzed. And
So this happened when you were in high school. I know that you were training for the NFL. You were being looked at.
I had scouts.
You had scouts coming to that game.
Yes.
And that was one of the first games. It was the third game, I think, right?
That was the first game.
It was the first game, but they were scouting you, looking at you.
Yes.
You saw your whole future ahead of you. And this happens.
Football player.
Do you remember that moment, though, when you went down?
Yeah, just like yesterday. Yeah.
So what was going through your mind when you're...
Well, I knew it was something very traumatic.
Yeah.
And instantly I felt like life was over. It was done.
Right there, lying on
there.
You're just
it was over for me, and I felt like I let myself and everybody down. I couldn't see my future, and it was like fear. Fear overtook me because I knew I couldn't move. I couldn't feel anything.
Nothing. But
And
you're awake. Your mind is awake,
and
fully
actually
functioning.
my mind is really like, I know how to get up. My mind is going through that process, but my body isn't moving.
And people are around you, and there's crowds.
They're yelling at me saying, get up, get up, get up. Celebrating because it was a good hit.
Could you talk?
Yeah. I was screaming, yelling and crying.
Oh my goodness. It's like that life can change.
Yeah.
That quick. So then what happened after that? Like, run me through that day.
So they rushed me to the hospital, obviously. They started doing tests. And one of the most interesting things was when they were trying to figure out how severe the accident was. They started poking me and doing all these tests, and I couldn't feel it.
Nothing.
From the neck down, right.
Oh my.
And so I remember lying in the emergency room, and they started cutting the bottom of my feet. My feet were bleeding. And my dad was standing over me in the emergency room, and he said, "Can you feel that?" And I started freaking out because I'm like, no, what are they doing to me,
Yeah, it's your body.
And he's like, your feet are bleeding. And I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel that they had cut my feet and they were bleeding.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And so I was freaked out.
Yep.
And I was very, 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 very scared, to say the least. And so they put me on a helicopter because, I was in a regional hospital. I needed to go to a trauma center. They take me there, and they do some more tests and MRIs and things like that. And they came out the next day, and they told me I was paralyzed from the neck down. And there's nothing they can do. And to prepare to live my life like that for the rest of my life.
That's
my
what they
diagnosis.
said to you.
Yes.
So, you get news like that. Your family's obviously there. Everyone's there. From that point on to making this turnaround in your mind.
Yeah.
how did that happen?
It didn't happen fast, I can tell you that. I had a lot of support, a lot of spiritual support. And I was mad at the world for about a year. And I was miserable. And,
Understandably so, yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the most profound things happened to me. One day I was lying in bed, and trust me, you didn't want to be around me because I was mad at the world. I was mad at everybody in it. I was miserable. And one day I asked myself, how can things be better? And I told myself, well, you can start with your attitude. Because I was just nasty to be around. So I changed my attitude. I said, okay, what if today, this day, you just, had a better attitude? And so I changed my attitude for that day, and that day was a better day. I mean, it was still a lot of pain, and a lot of discomfort, a lot of fear. But I realized that it wasn't a miserable day in a sense that I was just kind of mad at the world. I kind of had a better outlook on that day, and it felt better. And I started asking myself, what if type of questions. What if, I had a good attitude all the time, even though this is a tough situation. And then I asked myself, why are you upset? Outside of being injured, why are you upset? It's because my life had changed. The trajectory of my life had changed. The things that, my vision had changed. And I was upset about that. And I said, well, what if you can create the same things that you wanted in life, even though you have to do it maybe in a wheelchair? What if? I said, okay, that sounds interesting, right? And so I said, well, I'm gonna start using my mind. And one day, what really enforced that thought was, I was talking to my mom one day, and I was telling her just how bad I felt about the accident, and sort of having a pity party. And my mom wasn't having it. No pity whatsoever. She looked at me and said, your body may be injured, but there's nothing wrong with your mind. And so I started looking at ways that I could use my mind to change my situation.
How did you discover this? Like, where did you start going upon this route to discovery? Like, what did you?
It was just out of being miserable every day and wanting more in life. I was a very goal-oriented person, and my goal and my vision of life had changed, right? And so I had to create a new vision, which is hard for people.
Very
They
hard.
get stuck on that vision. When life changes, they don't change with it, right? We can get into that a little bit, but it was the vision that I wanted in life, and I started to see myself in this wheelchair, and I'm like, if I got to stay in this wheelchair, what is that going to look like for me? Because I know what I didn't want to see myself in a wheelchair, and I had my own idea of what that looked like, and I didn't like it. But I said, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair, I want to be maybe successful. I want to be able to be independent. I want this. I want to be able to do that, and blah, 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 blah. And I started looking at the things that I wanted in football and things that football would bring me. And I started asking myself, well, maybe you can still get those things. That's where that moment when my mom says nothing wrong with your mind. And so I started to look at, how can I bring those things to myself with my mind? Happiness, peace, joy. How can I bring those things to myself with my mind?
So who taught you how to do that? How did you start to learn how to do that? I mean, that's like...
Well, I would say I had a great support system, right? Mm-hmm. And they weren't having the pity party, right? And so, no, I wouldn't say no particular person. I mean, I have to give credit to everyone around me just for being so positive. And, I had a nice core group of people that really believed in me. They believed in God, that God was going to heal me and bring change into my life, positive change into my life. And I believed that. And I created a vision around that, right? And
intensely, like every day, every minute, you started to think about it and meditate on it. And how was that for you? Like,
I mean, it was every night I go to bed, I'm thinking about walking. Every night I go to bed, I'm thinking about what I want my life to be like.
Feeling it too, right?
Yes.
Just getting right into that.
Embodying it, just like in everything that I do. And I started shutting out the things that I couldn't do, the things that were hurtful. I mean, they were still there, but I didn't focus on those things. I always focused on moving forward. And it caused a certain type of action to take place in me. And I remember my sister telling me, because I went back to school and I knew I had to be intelligent and make good grades and do all of these things in order to be successful. And I would spend hours upon hours just reading and studying, feeding my mind, because one day I wanted to make something of myself. I wanted to defy the odds. I didn't want to be the guy that just went out and gave up and was in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And I said, even if I have to stay in a wheelchair, I want to be successful. I want to bring about change. I want to have an impact in the world. And I started focusing on that. And then there was another question that came up because I wanted that impact. And that was, what if you overcame this? Just what if? Just what if? Right? And I started thinking about what I wanted in football, because I had, idols like Emmitt Smith.
Of course.
And all the great running backs, the Walter Paytons of the world and all of that. And I wanted to be that, honestly. I mean, those were my goals. And then I thought about, well, what impact would you have if you were to overcome this? The only person I had heard of that overcome something like this was Dennis Byrd. He played for the Detroit Lions. And I said, I'm going to devote my life to that.
So when did you start seeing the effects of this?
Well, immediately after I changed my attitude, I felt better. And I had something to live for.
This vision.
This new vision. And that gave me a drive. That gave me hope. Right? That gave me something to wake up for every single day and work towards. Right? And that started immediately. And everything that I could think of to do that would bring that vision close to me, I was open and willing to do that.
So then, what was the first physical change that you saw happen? And you were like, this is, like, you were convinced 100%, this is working.
Well, I don't know if I was ever convinced 100% that it was working. I was just grateful for the small successes that came. Like feeding myself. There was a time when I couldn't feed
But that's not a small success. That's like a huge success.
Correct.
And that came after all the visualization.
It did. It came after that. I guess it was small in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Because of, I had this greater, bigger vision. But every time there was even a movement or a twitch in my arm or, maybe a little patch of sensation on my leg, that was something that I was grateful for and I celebrated. And I knew if I could build on top of that, and that was my mindset. Every step I take, I want to build on top of that. And so I fell in love with the process. It was a process that became so important to me. Not the end goal. I wanted the end goal, but I knew that there was things in between, to that point B destination that I had to do and overcome in order to get there. And so I would just put strategies in place, routines. I changed my habits, the way I thought. I meditated. I made sure I visualized every day. I would cut out pictures of things that I wanted to accomplish and look at it. This was before, vision boards was a big deal, right? This was way before that. I mean, because when everything is taken away from you and you're looking for something that will drive you forward, some sign of hope in your life, you begin to create that. And that's what I did. I created things. And I remember this story when I was in the hospital. My mom, she really started this with me because she would put certain things. So I was in this bed. I have to tell you this story.
Yeah, I want to hear.
And they strapped you down in this bed, and the bed rotated from side to side. And the reason why they would do that, because I couldn't move. I couldn't turn myself.
Was this a part of the therapy that you were going through?
No, this is just in the hospital. Okay. This wasn't therapy. Because if you stay in one position for too long, you develop bed sores.
Yes, right.
So they put me in a bed because I couldn't move, that rotated from side to side. It shifted my weight. So you spend, a certain amount of time, on your right side, and then a certain amount of time on your left side. And I had to face the wall for a few hours every day, a couple times a day. And my mom would put these scriptures on the wall, these little sayings, inspirational types things. And so when I was facing that wall, those were the things that I looked at. But that created a process. It helped change my mind, right? I started putting things in front of me that would help develop the vision, keep me motivated, keep my mind off what was really happening to me and on something that was possible. And that's the process that really helped me get to where I am today.
So Now you are a massive mentor and inspirational speaker, and you're an author, and you've done all these things. And what would you say? I know that there's a lot. One of the reasons why I started Life Masters is to have people like you come on and tell your story, because I do believe there's a lot of pain out there, and a lot of people are suffering, and they have nowhere to go. And I think through individual stories like yours, at least it lights that beginning spark to like, okay, if he can do it, so can I.
Right.
And that's why I'm doing the show.
Right.
So when you're working with your clients, what would you say is, first of all, one of the things that you're having to work most with clients? What's their biggest struggle?
I love this question. Most people don't like obstacles. So when they're in an obstacle, the first thing they want to do is get out of it. How can I avoid the obstacle, right? The obstacle is the way, right? Let's change our perception about the obstacle, right? Because it's the perception about the obstacle that's going to determine the outcome, right? And so if you're not looking for the opportunity in the obstacle, you're missing out potentially on your blessing. So I always help people take a look and see what's possible where you are. Because a lot of people get hung up on that vision that they had. And when the obstacle comes, now they feel like I can't reach this vision, or something is stopping me, or
because of this, or because of that, I can't.
Because of the obstacle.
Right. Whatever that is for that person.
Whatever that is, right? And so I try to get people to open up and see, well, what's possible in this? What is something that we can take out of this? What can we gain by going through this obstacle? And what is our perception of this, right? Because maybe our perception about what it is that we're going through needs to be looked at, right? Because my perception of my obstacle was, it was over, right? My life was over. But out of this became the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives, to be an inspiration, to actually overcome it, right? I've changed as a result of this. Like what I'm accomplishing now, I couldn't accomplish out there on the football field, right? The lives that I'm impacting, I wouldn't have impacted those lives the way I'm, on the football field, the way I'm doing it now.
And I know that your definition of success has nothing to do with money.
It doesn't. It's about service. It's about the impact that we can have in people's lives. It's taking an obstacle and turning it on its head, right? And that's what you want to look at. I call it the positive potential, right? Life is not in a straight line.
No, it's not.
It's the dips, the curves, and the turns. But there's so many lessons that are in those dips, turns, and curves that we can experience that will make us better, and then we can share to help someone else, right? There's power in stories. There's power in experiences. Experience is the best teacher. And so if we can, I wouldn't, ever say for someone to throw themselves into obstacles or go looking for obstacles, but when the obstacle shows up, it's game time.
It's game time.
It's game time, right? Because these are the opportunities for us to improve. These are the opportunities for us to see what we're made of, right? And understand that this obstacle isn't here to stop me. It's something here for me to learn and to grow and to become, right? When you have that perception, you're a lot stronger going into the obstacle. And you have that mindset of, okay, what is it about me that I need to change? What is it about me that I need to do? What is it about me? Instead of looking outward, we can start looking inward, because that's where the answer is.
So true. So for you, if somebody comes to you and they're like, I've lost all my money, I've got, and their obstacle was a financial obstacle.
Okay.
They can't seem to figure their way out.
Right.
You're not going to tell them to go chase the money. You're going to tell them to look inside and do something.
Well, first of all, if you lost your money, you were able to get the money in the first place.
That's right.
You can go do that again.
Yeah, that's true.
You can go do that again.
Yeah.
Right? And so, there's lessons learned in whatever happened, whatever that challenge, and why you lost the money, right? But then it's what are we going to pull from that situation?
And you learn from that.
And you learn from that, and how can we capitalize on that? If money is the goal, how can we use this situation to help people so they won't go through that situation?
So you help people with all kinds of issues, all kinds of problems, all kinds of scary.
From business, relationships, personal, whatever.
I love it. So where can we learn more? And I know you've written 3 books.
I have.
And where can we get your books? Where can we learn more about you?
RodneyFlowers.com.
It's easy. RodneyFlowers.com.
RodneyFlowers.com.
Nice. I told him that he has a very powerful name, and he said, yeah. but in high school, he didn't feel like it was.
Yeah, I got picked on when I was in high school. They called me Flower Power, Flower Boy, you know.
I love it.
All of those fun things. Yeah.
Well, you are so awesome. And when is your next speaking and engagement? I know that you speak all over the world.
Well, I have a private event coming up in January.
Perfect.
So, I also teach speakers how to tell their story. So I have a story, obviously. And so I have an event coming up where I'm helping people communicate more effectively, to tell their story succinctly and in a way that can bring about change and connect and engage with their audiences.
Great. So we can learn about your speaking, your books, anything that you're doing. I know you have an amazing Instagram as well. I'm following you there, and it's it's a wealth of inspiration. I love it.
Thank you.
And yeah, so if you want to reach out to Rodney, you're available. Go to rodneyflowers.com.
That's it.
Thanks so much for coming on Life
Thank you
Masters.
for having
That was fun.
me.
I could
I
talk
love
to you so much longer.
Thank you.
Well, that's the end of our show. And if you want to learn more about Life Masters, or if you want to binge watch any of the past episodes, go to iTunes, look for Life Masters TV. You can also see the show on EverTalk TV on Apple and Roku. And thanks a lot for watching and listening. And this was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.